Wagwan, we are back after the last so ultra leany. Back for a Q&A because my brain's feeling a little less sizzled. Body's feeling not too bad. Got some niggles, knees a bit sore, hips a bit sore, hamstrings a bit sore, but game's the game. You run 320 Ks in 48 hours and you're gonna have some niggles. It's the game, especially on that concrete. That goddamn concrete she was violent. She was violent, but we do have some questions. Let me get them up. I actually had a shitload of questions, so I don't know if I'll be able to go through all of them, especially because some of them are like similar, so there would be no point trying to answer them all individually when some of them answer themselves with other questions. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, as you can see, it's a lot of questions. So let's get into it. Most noteworthy APL quote of the entire race. In all honesty, I don't think I actually needed like that much emotional support. So there was no real much need for him to go full poet on me. There was once in the first night or start of the first night where I was just questioning. I was like, what are we even fucking doing here? We're running circles for what? What the fuck? And then he just fire breathed me something, I can't even remember. It was something about like, you told the world that you were going to alchemize your soul out here, you were going to give everything and destruct your lesser self. And then it got into my head. I was like, you know what? It's fucking right. I said I was going to destruct myself out here. So what the hell am I playing about for, entertaining these thoughts, just trying to tap me out early, that everyone's feeling? Because at the end of the day, you ran 100+ K, yet there's still 100+ people. And that can play with your mind a little bit because you understand how much left there is to go. That's why people say it gets easier the longer it goes, at least mentally. But obviously your body takes more of the battering. But yeah, he reminded me of that quick. And that was the only one really that I can remember. And then little ones in my ears, I'm walking off and stuff. But that was the only one that I felt like really emotionally triggered a response. Because it was the only time I really needed it. Because when I quit, it wasn't even like I was mentally fucked. My body was just fucked. What is the darkest thought you've had the entire race? The darkest thought? I'm not too sure, to be honest. It depends what you mean by dark. Because there was definitely times where I was thinking, geez, I must hate myself a lot to want to do this, to put myself through this, to want to run in circles until oblivion, for infinite circles, until God knows how long. But in terms of an actual dark thought, I don't know. I don't really think I had one, to be honest. I had a lot of interesting thoughts and clarity and questions of myself and answers to those questions and questions of my why and questions of why I do this and for how long can I do this. But in terms of dark thoughts, I don't know. What lap did you see God? In all honesty, none. What's the biggest lesson you took with you from LSU? Now this was like a common, like everyone answered it in sort of different ways, asked it in different ways. But I would say the biggest lesson I took from LSU is that the human body is more resilient than any of us give it credit for. Any of us. Because when you think you're done, when you think you're tapped out, you can still get out for another loop. And I think the relentlessness of every hour on the hour really brings this to light. Because in every other race, when you feel fucked, when you're feeling tapped out, you get 10 minutes, you get 20 minutes, you get 30 minutes, sometimes you get an hour or more. And you're allowed to reset and check yourself and go back out there. And yeah, you still think you're resilient, you still think like you're pushing it or whatever, but the backyard really forces you to push it and to dig yourself out of a hole even when you don't want to. Because it's like you either go or you DNF. And if you don't plan on DNF, you have to go. You have to find a way to get one foot forward in front of the other. And it's a great metaphor for life because life will not wait for you to be ready. It will hand you a death. It will hand you an illness. It will hand you financial turmoil. It will hand you a really unfortunate circumstance and say, deal with it. It's not going to allow you to take a break. It's just going to say, deal with it. And the backyard format captures that so fucking well. Because it's like, is your knee hurting? Deal with it. Is your mind hurting? Deal with it. Is your stomach hurting? Deal with it. Everything is just deal with it. You have to get up on the hour or you ring that fucking bell. So get up and just go. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned is that if you want to find a way, you will find a way. There's no other way around it. It's like do or die. And many of us don't give our bodies and our minds the opportunity to really feel that, to really exercise that. We always give ourselves grace and stuff. But when you're put in an environment and a circumstance where you have to get up and go, your body will just find a way. And then having that confidence to know you can do that can be carried into life. Because when shit hits you unexpectedly, when you're not given a rest period or a time frame of less turmoil, it's like, well, I know I can deal with this. I know I can get up and keep going again. I can get up and keep hitting the wall every time. Nothing's gonna faze me. I'm just gonna get up and do what I need to do, get the job done. And that's fucking powerful. And I feel like that's one thing that's really stuck with me and something that I can really take into everyday life and into more races. And just overall confidence booster, man. It's all about, breaking yourself down and improving from that. Like a muscle, you break it down and you improve and you exceed that. And yeah, man, that's one of the biggest lessons I took from LSU. How deep is your love? The exact same fucking Frank. How deep is your love? Well, I found out this weekend my love goes so fucking deep. I don't know if it's love. It's like a balance of love and self-hatred. They combine, but both of them go pretty deep. And I think they have to go deep for a format like this because you have to love yourself so much that you're willing to do such self-hatred things to yourself. Because to really improve, if you love yourself, you want to improve, you want to progress, and to really improve and really progress, you have to do things that make you question, is this really love or is it self-hatred? Because it is a form of self-torture, but you understand that the end goal of it is for the greater good of your progression, of your character, of the stories you get to tell, of the person you get to build. And that's the ultimate self-love, putting yourself to the test. Did you hallucinate and what did you see on that track? Oh boy, did I fucking hallucinate. Holy shit, man. Where do I even begin? I could not be answering this for a long time. So I didn't take caffeine until like 11 or 12 on night 2. But I was pretty tired early on. Like from night 1, I was pretty tired. I wouldn't say I was hallucinating on night 1. It was more like day/afternoon of day 2. I was seeing all sorts of shit, man. I was seeing like mattresses on the concrete. I remember that one really vividly. And I had to like triple check. And I was seeing so many cats and dogs. And like those masks that people wore in those like medieval parties, like with the beaks and stuff, like the masks. Saw a lot of them, but mainly cats and dogs. And the amount of times I had to like triple check. There was a couple times where in the bush, and it was like a bush and wood behind it. And I would think it's a dog. And I had to triple check, and then there was a couple times where I had to actually go over and touch it to double check what the fuck I was seeing and make myself realize actually this is wood. I'm not seeing a dog right now, and that was really creepy. That was a really weird experience. That was on night 2. That happened a couple times. I just had to pause, and because I was blinking and I was still seeing a dog, I was like, no way. So I had to go up to and touch it, and realize, okay, you're just bugging out, Aaron. As well as like hearing voices. I don't know like if they're just made up or it was genuinely like people talking. And at one point I thought it was the drone, but it definitely wasn't a fucking drone because it was like going past my ear. Like, It's fucked up, man. And the thing is, the hallucinating didn't really fuck me because I understood like this is just part of the process, just ignore it. The more attention you give the hallucinations, the worse they become, and the more you get in your head about it. It was just like, it's what it is. The game's the game. And there was a few other ones, but the main thing were cats and dogs. Really, really weird. But it's what happens with sleep deprivation. It's the game. When you accept it, you accept it. Don't let it fuck with your head. Was there a loop your team had to throw you on course, or was it easy to go out every loop? In all honesty, I think my crew could say it was pretty easy to get me out every loop. I didn't really show much restraint, apart from that one loop on night 1 where I was saying, fuck this, like what are we doing this for? This is all stupid, we're running in circles. I would argue that I was a pretty easy guy to get out there. We had systems that I followed every time. I knew what I had to come in and do. I knew what I had to eat. And I knew I had to get fucking back out there. And if I can move, I will move and I will get back out there. The only one that was probably somewhat tough is the one before where I DNF'd because I was saying my hip was so sore. And I really fought to get back on that loop. And I was like, fuck, man, this is not good. Like I could feel myself degrading and becoming a straggler, becoming a zombie. And I didn't like that. And that fucked in my head. And I did mention it to the crew, but they were like, just get back out there. Because the worst comes to the worst, you don't get back. No, I'm not going to quit on the spot. If I go out and I walk the whole way or I fucking fall over, whatever, the game's the game. At least you went back out, at least you tried, and there's power in that. So yeah, I would say it was pretty easy to get me out every loop. Yeah, but only they can answer that, but I'm pretty sure they would vouch for me on that one. What was the doctor's answers to, I ran 295K in 44 hours, please check me? Actually, brother, 320K in 48 hours. Actually, on my Garmin, it said like 328K or 329K. So yeah, the response was like, these doctors, they had, because we were at the event and there was a few people that had gone to the hospital, they knew what was going on. They knew it's crazy. They just laughed and said, you're a nut job. But that's the game. Like, you do these weird things, you can't expect everyone to understand them, but they look after you anyway. So godspeed the doctors. They know you're doing self-torture, self-harm, but they're willing to help you when you need help in anyway. If you could do one thing differently in the Lsu Ultra, what would it be? Good question. Well, I didn't listen to music or have my phone out for any loop, 0 loops. Actually, I had my phone out for 1 loop because Alex needed the password to my Instagram and we were like leaving the loops. I was like, give me my phone, I'll text you it. Give him my phone, I texted him it. That was the only time I used it. I didn't listen to music, didn't use my phone any other time. And I would argue that that was a mistake because I am someone that fed off interaction and stuff. And I do think that at times, seeing a message, seeing a call or getting a call could have possibly helped in darker times. Or times where I felt like I was really struggling and just like, why am I doing this? Questioning everything. So calling people that are close to me, calling my crew and stuff, that would have helped. And also there was things out on the course where I feel like I would need, like whether it be a certain type of food or a caffeine tablet or something's niggling or whatever. And I wish I could tell the crew because I would always forget. I would get to the crew and then we'd do our thing and I would just forget. So having a phone to be able to text, super easy. And also music, man. Like I said, there was no point where I really yearned for it. But who knows, a bit of a nice beat or some Valhalla music, some Viking music, I think would have carried me through and made sometimes a lot easier rather than just listen to my fucking own voice every time, my own thoughts. So definitely next time I think I'll have my phone, have some music. Not that I'll abuse it. I think it's definitely a tool to be used and not something to lean on or rely on. But it is a tool to be used. And I didn't use it. And you learn from these things, you know. The whole point of this is to adapt and learn and take things forward. What are your upcoming projects and what's next for you? Both two of the same questions. Moab 240. Right now, like I said, left knee's a bit sore, left hip's a bit sore, right hamstring's giving me a bit of grief, but we are only like, it's Friday now, so last week I was starting the race. So I understand, like from previous races where I've rushed back into things, it's not good for your CNS, not good for your body, let your body recover. So right now I'm just letting my body recover, shaking off any fatigue and seeing what's left. Like you have to understand you are going to have these niggles. You have pushed your body to a certain limit and to not rush back. That being said, I want to do Moab 240 still. It's a lot of organization, a lot of admin, a lot of prep that I need to do for that. But we had this massive build for LSU and I gained a lot of volume and fitness and stuff. So I want to put that to use still to Moab. You don't just lose that. Yes, when I go back into somewhat of programmed and normal training, it's going to be, I'm definitely going to have lost some certain things, but that's the game. And I understand that I'm going into Moab not 100%, not peaked, but I understood that when taking on LSU and Moab. I knew that like one was going to have to suffer. I either didn't go max at LSU and did Moab properly, or I went max at LSU and Moab took a hit, potentially taking the risk of not being able to do Moab because I could have had a really bad injury. Luckily, I don't think any injury is really bad, but again, I need to be looked at by a physio, let everything die down a little bit, and then really assess where, if I'm able to push and do Moab properly. But ideally would want to do Moab and push as best as I can. Ideally, I would have wanted more trail and elevation work, but I couldn't prioritize that. I don't really live near many. So I'll definitely try to get a couple trips in before Moab, but again, understand that circumstances aren't ideal, but that is the game. We live for the fucking story. And I would love to do Moab. I'd love to suffer out there, and I'd love to add some more attributes to my character that we're building. Understanding I probably won't finish near the top, but I'm gonna fucking try anyway, bro, because if we're not trying, we're dying. I got distracted earlier trying to do other things. So we've carried on. We've got some more noodles, some bread. So We're going to eat and talk. So I think we finished off with what was next to me, Moab. Then, do you have book recommendations about mindset and discipline in sport? Yeah, I have a few. I'm not very good at book names. I have a shitload of books upstairs. But the one with Kobe Bryant, MJ's coach. Oh, what is it called? What is his name as well? Fuck. What is his name? Forgot his name. But yeah, they both had like a mental coach, and he was super, super good. And there's some really good mindset and discipline tips in there. There's 80-20 training, which is a running book. There's How Bad Do You Want It, running book. Again, both same author. I can't remember his name, but I've read them both. And then in general, just a shitload of book on like founders and athletes, like autobiographies and biographies. Again, on founders and athletes, because they're fucking, you need the exact same traits sort of to win at both. And it's just a resilience to never quit, to bite on glass for as long as you possibly can. And what you realize is the traits between high performing athletes or high performing founders, it's the same traits you see over and over and over again. And some of it is talent, some of it is knowledge, some of it is skill, but a lot of it is just an unwillingness to take no for an answer. And I do think that is an ultimate superpower. How do you push through a hard time during a race? I made a reel on this. That was based on a convo after LSU in the hospital. And basically, I would say, I always go back to your why. That's why it's important to have a really strong why before. Why are you doing all this? Why are you self-voluntary suffering? Why are you putting yourself through this? Absolute bullshit. And if it's not strong enough, if it's for external validation, if it's for anything other than self-exploration and a willingness to find out more about yourself, you're gonna struggle, bro. Actually, that's a lie. It can be about more than self-exploration for you, and finding out about yourself. You can be motivated by doing it for others, people you love, etc., etc. I think they're definitely parts of my why, and they allow me to push harder. But my actual why, like why I do this, why I seek this every day or most of my life or whatever, is from myself and a willingness to find the limit within myself. I've been given an able body, an able mind, an able set of limbs, an able ambition to push my body to these limits, to find the very edge of what I'm capable of. And it would be a waste to not exercise that, to not explore that, to not fuck around and find out why. So basically, I don't want to die thinking, what if? When it does get hard, you have to think, I've been blessed with this opportunity. Do I want to give up this opportunity right now to push harder? And if you are physically able to keep moving forward in anything, in hard times in life and in exercise, if you're physically able to make a move forward, to progress, to stand in the face of adversity, in the face of rejection, then do it. Because there's no other option otherwise. Like, what are you going to do? Just stand down? Accept defeat? No, we don't do that. And you can't allow yourself to even entertain that idea. Scariest part of the race. Scariest part of the race. The end. Because on that last lap, my hip was really fucking sore. Then my back started seizing up. And it was like going up, and that that was freaking me out. So I went to sit down, and then I started shivering, which I was shivering the whole night before. In the camp, I kept shivering, but then when I started running, I'll be fine. But I was shivering in 30-degree heat, and my back was seizing up. And then I went to get up again, and my back felt okay again, and I couldn't really stand up properly. I couldn't really move when I did get up. But that shivering really did scare me, and my back seizing up, I'll be honest. And like I said, by the time I got back up and started walking, I couldn't really run. I was fucked. My body was shutting down. And then also passing out after the race, I laid down, and then I went about 30-40 minutes after that. Then I was talking to everyone, I was fine. But then I went to go to the toilet and passed out. And then I kept passing out. Passed out twice. And was like sort of in and out of it. So that was pretty fucking scary, considering I never passed out before. I'd never felt that feeling. So it was super, super new to me. And I was like, am I dying? Am I in Valhalla? Am I seeing God? And unfortunately, I wasn't. I was okay. But scary moment, because it makes you question everything. But at no point did I regret how far I pushed. And that is something I'm super grateful for. That all that can happen, and I still wasn't regretful of pushing that hard. Which shows that I was doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it to push myself. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Do you ever struggle with mental health? If yeah, how do you find the motivation to go on with sport? Bro, I think what you have to understand is that everyone struggles with mental health. Obviously to different degrees. I'm not here to make anyone feel invalidated, because everyone does feel it to different degrees. And that doesn't mean that someone's gone through harder things. It just means everyone is affected by things in different ways. And what you have to realize is that nobody's coming to save you. Nobody. You're there for yourself. So if you don't find ways to dig yourself out of hard times, you're constantly waiting on someone to come save you, it's gonna be a tough fucking life. That doesn't mean that people can't help you. That doesn't mean that you can't seek some sort of attention sometimes. But what it does mean is that you need to learn to take yourself out of this shit and push harder when nothing in your body wants to push harder. Nothing in your body wants to step forward, but you have to find a way. Because if you don't, you're gonna suffer even more. And that's what I try to tell myself. And yeah, that may be a sort of tough love sort of way to do it, but that's what works for me. You know, I can be gentle with myself, but that doesn't help the situation. For me, I need to realize that we need to find a solution. And for me, movement, sport in general is my solution. It's not whether I'm motivated, it's that I know I have to do it to feel like to feel good, to feel like I'm progressing, to feel like I'm becoming better as a man. Sport is a big part of that for me. It's the main driver for, look how dirty this is, man. Holy shit. Exercise for me is the main driver in exceeding my limits, finding the edge. So, to briefly go back to your question, do you ever struggle with mental health? If yeah, how do you find the motivation to go on with sport? Sport is my outlet. If I didn't have that, then I would struggle a lot more mentally. I know a lot more people would struggle mentally. And if sport isn't your outlet, then find your outlet. Find what makes you tick, find what makes you forget about your problems, find what allows you to create problems into solutions. What gets your brain ticking, what allows you to create ways out rather than look at all the ways you're trapped. You know, it's always a perspective thing, and it's about doing the things that allow you to change your perspective rather than just wallowing in your current perspective. You ever took a pause from running sport in general? In all honesty, not really. Again, I think it was the same person that asked them 2 questions. I can't really take a break because it's the thing that allows me to feel human. It's the thing that allows me to express myself. It's the thing that allows me to be a better person every day. So like, for example, after LSU, I probably want to train for a little bit, but I'll still find ways to get like movement in. I haven't been back to the gym yet, but I will get back to the gym, do upper body, do lower body, light bike, all that stuff. Like, just find ways to move, because if you're moving, listen, the demons can't get a moving target. And if you're moving, they can't get you. So I would just say, just fucking move. Movement is God's gift. We were given the ability to move, don't waste it. What surprised you about the experience, since you've already crewed many times? I think the nights surprised me most. They're fucking lonely, man. They are fucking lonely. And so when I was forced to address my why a lot harder and a lot sooner than what I anticipated. From the first night, I was feeling it. You're just out there, you're so lonely. All to yourself. I didn't have music. I didn't really have people to talk to. You're forced to address your why pretty quick. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? You're running in the middle of the night. What the fuck's going on? And every hour, you're allowed to tap out. It's not like a point-to-point race where you need to get somewhere. You have a mission. This is a race that will force upon you the idea of a lack of mission if you don't have a strong enough mission yourself. What I mean by that is if you don't have a mission, you don't have a why, you don't have a purpose in doing this thing, this race will suffocate you in the fact that you have no mission, because you can ring the bell every round. There is no distance or place that you need to get to. It is just ring that bell. The chance to ring that bell is there every round. And that is constantly highlighted to you, especially if your why isn't strong enough. And yeah, you feel that pretty early on, I feel, no matter who you are. And also, the fluctuations in emotions within each loop. I thought every loop would be different, but it's like no emotion lasted too long in each loop. So there was constant up and downs within the loop. It wasn't just an up and down race with loop to loop. There was constant up and down emotions within loops. The start loop, I'd feel great. Middle loop, I feel awful. Then second, I don't know, 3/4 through, I'd feel great again. Then last half, I'd feel awful again. It was just a constant balancing act, trying to manage emotions and realizing no emotion would ever last too long. Completely fucking insane. Twisted format. But we'll do it again. You described the moment you knew it was over. Like I said, when my back started seizing up and then I was on the floor and shivering, I was like, yeah, my body is so dumb. It's completely over. But I tried to get back up, tried to stand, tried to walk. Man, my body was just in complete shutdown mode. It was surrendering. And I'd reached the limit at that point. But you learn a lot, man. I wasn't disappointed with myself. I was proud of the effort. For a first 148 loops, I stuck it out, man. But you do learn a lot, and I learned a lot on that race about what I can do better next time. It could also be a whole separate video, to be honest. But a lot to change, a lot to be better from, improve upon. And yeah, excited. This is the third set of filming this Q&A. We've been interrupted a couple times. This is now the next day. We have specs on. So, next question being, not a question actually, but you're a heck of a motivation because of what you left out there. Well, the game's the game. And you don't sign up for these races and make certain promises to yourself if you're not willing to follow through. And I believe I was willing to follow through, although the injuries I thought I had were not as serious as I originally thought, because I don't feel too bad now. Knee's a bit sore, left knee's a bit sore from like a patella tendonitis thing, but that's just overuse. That's just the case running on concrete for fucking 320 kilometers. And then right hamstring's a bit sore, but again, I don't think there's any tear or anything because I can move and have full like range of motion on it. And then my right foot is a bit sore. I think I've like pulled a certain muscle, and the thing that controls the big toe, bit sore, which I thought was a fracture in the race because it was hurting from like loop 10. So, but then it just wore off. So yeah, game's a game. You don't come out of these events unscathed. Mentally, it must be so hard not having a finish line in sight. How do you handle that? Good question. I think that's what differentiates the backyard to most races, is that there is no finish line, and at the end of every loop, every hour, you have the opportunity to ring the bell. You have the opportunity to end the suffering. You have the opportunity to go home, sit in a bed, get comfortable again. And that's the most sadistic thing about this race, is that you're constantly toying with this idea of like, do I need to go further? And I need to go further. And it does cause a lot of internal conflict, in the sense that nobody has to go further out there. Nobody's forcing you. You don't have to get to point. There's no goal to reach. You know, there's no end goal. So it's literally just go as far as you can go. And mentally, that's a really tough concept, which is why a lot of racers struggle with this format. Like, there's people that race 200, 300 miles and can race those races not comfortably, but somewhat okay, and know they can get through it. But in a backyard, can barely do 100 miles. And that is the cynical aspect to this race. Mentally, because I've crewed a couple, I just understood the concept. And I felt like that concept was a big strength of mine, and that you can just dig until you can't anymore. And I leaned into that. It's like, yeah, I don't know how far I'm gonna go, but that's exciting. If you don't know how far you're gonna go, that's the unknown to the race. That's the fear factor. That's what gets you excited. That's why you sign up to the race, because it's like, let's find the limit. And if you're not going in from that excitement point of view, and you're not seeing it as a self-exploration thing, then it gets tough, man, because you will just ring that fucking bell. And if you're not seeking a deeper sense of self out there, then that bell becomes ever so more attractive. How insane did it get? Pretty fucked, to be honest. But again, like, not as much as I thought, in all honesty. Like, I got pretty mad, but you just zone out and you just get those loops done, and it just becomes your life out there. Like, I come to terms with that loop will be my home for the next few days. And when you make that deal with yourself, that deal with the devil, then there's only so bad it can get, because you hit a point, it gets bad, and then it just hits a point and you plateau. And yeah, people think it just has this progressively worse thing and you just plummet into a hole of oblivion, but it's not really the case. It does just hit a point and it gets bad, and then obviously when you're time to tap out, it then has that dip. But even that creeps up on you. At loop 45, I thought I had 60 loops in me. I thought I could go on forever, and then it doesn't, and shit happens, and that is just something you have to come to terms with. That is the nature of the beast with this format, is that the longer it goes, the more fragile that line becomes that you're tiptoeing. So to never take any loop for granted, but also understand that in any given loop where you feel super shit, it can all change, for the better or for worse. So yeah. How did you get to know Kim? Oh man, I've talked about this story so many times and it never really gets old. I knew Kim through Alex. I knew Alex through social media, through a mutual friend called Zach Pogrob, creator of Aura. Share Aura, the app where you create cool designs around your running, and now there's going to be a social feature which will be super fucking cool, and I'm super excited for him. He's worked super hard on that, and I've seen the progression of the whole app and it's just been insane. Yeah, so I knew Zach through social media, like following him, and then he reposted one of my posts and Alex saw it, liked it, then I followed Alex, and then Alex followed me, and then we were chopping up in the DMs. We got on. I flew out to Mallorca to train with Alex just because I was like, there's no one really around me that gets all this stuff, this running stuff and this training stuff. And I wanted to meet more people alike, similar mindsets and cool people. And sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and be like, yeah, he said, do you want to come out and train, or mentioned it? And I was like, okay, I'll fucking do that. And then I flew out, trained with him, never met him. We fucking suffered together. We bled together. We ate together. He invited me into his home at the time, Mallorca, where he was working, and yeah, it was fucking cool. We really got on, made a brother for life, and then our relationship only went from strength to strength, and came to LSU, and Kim needed a crew member, and obviously him and Alex knew each other from G1M, and he asked Alex, do you know anyone? And Alex said, I know a guy, that guy being me. And I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Bearing in mind, I knew who Kim was, but I wasn't too familiar with how big he was in Germany, especially. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's fucking do it. I didn't even know LSU. The only way I knew LSU was a thing was because of Alex, because Alex was competing in it. And originally I was meant to crew Alex, but then there was like limits on crew, and that fell through. But yeah, then I ended up coming to Germany. I met Kim on the race day of LSU on the Friday, which is obviously a super intense situation in terms of I'm in a different country, in a language I don't know, crewing the guy that all the attention and focus is on. He was the winner of G1M, he's the runner of the event, he's the organizer of the event. Had all these cameras on me, like, oh, you're coaching Kim, what's your strategy, blah, blah. I hadn't got a fucking clue. I'd never crewed a backyard before. I fucking had never been to a backyard before. I'd done ultras and stuff, but it's a different ball game. The intensity of crewing a backyard is completely different ball game. And it was super foreign experience for me, but I learned a fucking lot from that experience, a lot about what my body can tolerate, what my emotional state can tolerate most of all, and how I handle pressure. And guess what? We ended up fucking winning. What was your biggest learning from the LSU? I think I've spoken about it. I can't really fully remember what I've spoken about on the last two videos. I sort of just talk and let my brain operate and flow. But biggest learning, can't cheat reps. You know, I went into LSU, in all honesty, thinking I can compete with some of the big boys. My first backyard. In what world do you walk into a football pitch and think you can compete with Lionel Messi on your first go? On what world do I walk onto a world major marathon and think I can compete with Kipchoge or any of these top guys? It's the same with anything. You can't cheat the reps. Like, these top guys have done 8, 9, 10 plus backyards. They've earned their stripes. They've earned their reps. And I thought I could come in and suffer really hard and beat some of these guys. And although, yeah, I did get really far on my first backyard, and I still feel like I had more in the tank, just like anyone says, that typical, I had more in the tank, but I didn't give it on the day. My body shut down, and that is the game. And I learned a fucking lot about why my body shut down, about how to prolong it from shutting down, about how to bleed for longer. You know, the Dowdle strategy, bleed for long. Don't try win the race in the first 50 loops. Let yourself bleed for longer. And that's Dowdle's superpower. It's something I've really taken from him. I picked his brain a fucking lot out there, whether he knows it or not. We talked a lot, and I got him to open up a lot about how he views the race and how he treats the race. And I've downloaded a lot of data from clearly one of the best in the world. Which is even insane. Like thinking about it, I got to race against some of the best guys to do it in the world on my very first race. And I feel like I soaked it in so much and tried to download as much as I could from the Henrik Bowries, from the Harvey Lewises, from the Mark Dowdles, from all these, from the Normans, from the Ellos. Like I tried to take as much as I could, whether I was speaking to them or watching them or just seeing how they operated, how their crews operated, how they operated, everything. Like just downloading so much data. And you just can't cheat that. You can't cheat the reps in the game. You can't cheat experience. And if you try to, you will burn. You will fucking burn. And what I'll tell you right now is Rocky 1 is over. Rocky lost his first bout. He put up a fight, but he lost his first bout. Rocky 1 is over. But guess what? The Rocky story continues. Because there's Rocky 2, there's Rocky 3, there's Rocky 4, and there's going to be many more fucking Rockies. I'm telling you. But as long as you learn from each loss, as long as you learn from each event, you gain the XP. Me and this guy called James Luxton, sick fucking guy as well, double XP weekend. I was able to get in a super high ranked lobby on my first go and soak in as much experience as fucking humanly possible. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Wow, that was a long answer. Are you satisfied by the outcome, loops and mentality? So inspired by you and your work. Thank you, brother. There's nothing to be inspired by. I am just an ultimate spastic trying to do this thing and trying to figure out shit along the way. But am I satisfied? Of course, I'm proud of my effort. It would be super ignorant and super, I don't know, a bit of an egomaniac move to say, oh, I'm not proud of 48 loops on my first go, because there was guys that did 90, 80 loops and you wanted to compete with some of these guys. But again, don't be fucking retarded, Aaron. Like, they have earned their stripes, man. Don't be silly and naive to the fact that it takes time, and don't try rush the process, because the process is all you fucking have. You try rush it, and one, you'll regret it, and two, you can't fucking rush it anyway. So just enjoy the fucking process. So I'm super proud of myself for pushing to the limits I did and finding that pain cave and going past it and getting to 48 loops. But am I satisfied? No. Like, it's about being proud of yourself but never content. There's always more to give. There's always more to learn. And you always leave these events feeling, oh, I can definitely go further in the next one. And that's the beauty of the event. That's what keeps you coming back. And that competitive nature against yourself is what allows you to push further in the next one. But I'm super proud of myself for pushing through the tough times and just being willing to step in the arena on this one. You know, it was a big pressure event. Being a rapid athlete, there is that natural pressure to perform. And just more self-pressure. I put a lot of my pressure on myself to perform. I have high expectations of myself in anything I do. I put a lot of effort into this prep. I've put a lot of effort into the sport of running and accumulating and fitness over the last 5 years. So, you know, there is a natural element of pressure there. And I was proud of how I performed. But I also know there's a lot more to give and a lot more experience to gain. You know, every event I'm going to come out learning more and taking more. Your prep von A to Z, please, and your biggest hurdles during that time. Not sure what that fucking means. Your prep von A to Z. My prep, just accumulate miles. The biggest thing I would say is a few things actually. Don't overshoot what your body can handle. You can get caught in the social media trap of trying to chase more miles. More miles does not mean better outcome. There's elite ultra runners on less than 100k a week. You don't have to be hitting these 100 miles a week, breaking your body into a fucking wall every single week and then get to race day and not be ready. So I would say listen to your body. I was able to push mileage because I listened to my body. I pushed when I could push and I pulled back when I had to pull back. If I felt niggles, I didn't push it. If my body felt... Sorry, phone bugged out. Yeah, obviously you push it when you can, but you have to listen to your body. And the only reason I was able to push so far in my training, getting up to these nearly 200k weeks and consecutively, like I built
I stacked weeks. I didn't have this big spike in a week or a couple of weeks and then injury or feeling niggles and then we're back down here, and then we're back up again. And this super jumpy. It was just steady, little deload rest, steady. And I'd done that, stacked that for the past 6 to 8 months and really let my body adapt. That's the main thing, adaptation. If you can't adapt from your training stimulus, it becomes fucking pointless. Obviously, there are times where you push and you see what your body's capable of. You push the mileage, you push the intensity, and you have these periods where you really dig to see what your mind's capable of. But once you know your mind can adapt and your mind can push and you can grit, then training, there becomes a diminishing return to constantly finding that edge. Jakob Ingebrigtsen put it best. He described it as pulling the carrot out. So the same that can be applied to 1500 meter runners or marathon runners or half marathon runners can be applied to ultra runners. You see these guys constantly bury themselves in training, 200k plus weeks, 100-mile weeks every week, and they're carrying niggles, they're carrying fatigue, and And yes, carrying fatigue is part of the game. Don't think you shouldn't be training hard enough where there is a bit of fatigue and there is niggles and whatever. When you're training on that line of adaptation and overtraining, that it's a very thin line. And it takes years to balance. It takes a lot of intuitive knowledge and a lot of going over that line to learn and a lot of being under that line to learn. And I've been able to build that over 5 or so years. I think one of my superpowers is my intuitive connection with my body. I know my body so well at this point because I've pushed the limits and because I've gone under the limits. I know sort of where to go. That doesn't mean I won't make mistakes. That doesn't mean I don't get injured. That doesn't mean I don't feel these things. But over years and constantly being conscious enough in my training and in my body that I'm learning my body every day, every week I'm training. But going back to Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he talked about pulling the carrot out. If you're constantly pulling your carrot out of your farm, of like growing it, by the time you get to race day and you fully pull it out, it's never going to have the full growth it can. Whereas if you keep that carrot buried in the soil and you water it every day, you feed it every day, you give it sunlight every day, by the time you pull it out on race day, when you really need to pull it out, it's going to be fucking huge. You're going to have this big body of work that you get to showcase. But in training, if you're constantly pulling it out, you're doing a 10-hour simulation, you're doing a big fucking run, you're doing a hard, intense run all the time, pushing your limits, max, distance, intensity, everything, volume, then that carrot will not be big enough on race day. I talked to Sam Harvey about this, and he's a savage of a coach. Like, his athletes do crazy work, and we were talking about how people push, and they're not letting their body soak in adaptation. It's like, do you want to get to race day as a beaten, underfed, undercooked chicken? Or do you want to come to race day as a cooked, juicy, rotisserie chicken? And you want to get to race day ready, like juicy, ready to run far. And I think that was a superpower of mine. And again, I'm also always learning. And I have played that game where you are pushing a little bit too far, but I'm super good at just focusing on myself. I don't care about anyone else. I'm not focusing on anyone else's training. It's purely my training and what my body is telling me. And I really do think like that is a superpower, you know, focus on yourself, don't get caught up. And I think in all honesty, you asked your biggest hurdle. The hurdle is more the outside sacrifice, you know. An event like this and a sport like this requires a lot of sacrifice. It's quite selfish in nature, and people around you do need to sacrifice, and they do need to accept that they either won't see you as much or you have to prioritize other things. And man, that can really cause some turmoil outside of your life that I won't really go into too much in this. But be ready to sacrifice, that's all, and learn. And I'm not saying you have to sacrifice everything, but there is just a natural cost to things. There's always, where something's growing, something has to be taken away, and that's just life. You can have anything, but you can't have everything. So that's the biggest hurdle, trying to balance everything outside of training. How did training look like? Yeah, just building volume. I had tempo sessions at least once a week, if I could twice a week, and that would look like longer intervals or progression runs. So you would start slow and build up. Or like I said, intervals with some floating rests, just to keep the leg turnover there. But in all honesty, I didn't prioritize it as much as I should have. I think keeping your legs spicy, keeping the speed work is a super important thing. And when you start to let that go, I don't know, you can get caught in this, like just going at one pace the whole time and avoiding the discomfort, which I tried to not let myself, especially coming from like a big few high rocks blocks where you're not smashing the wall, but you're hitting that threshold range constantly, sometimes twice a day, double threshold on the skis, the runs. So you get so accustomed to tough workouts and gritting through it. And I felt like I lost that edge a little bit in this prep, just getting used to just going for longer. and at one pace. So more speed work is something I definitely implement. Not that I didn't. And I was also, instead of speed work, I was getting more like hill work in, so doing tempo stuff on the Stairmaster, or finding a hill and doing long thresholds, or on the treadmill doing like 10-15 minute intervals. They were super useful, and I think will also be super useful in Moab. But definitely more of that stuff, like less trying to focus on the long, slow stuff, and more keeping legs spicy. Yeah, man. And in terms of how training looked like, also treating running as your transport vehicle. So I just ran everywhere. So that would be 2K there, 1K there, 3K there, 5K there, 10K there, 20K there. And by the end of the day, you've knocked out 40K. And it was relatively easy because you just treated it as your vehicle. And I did that for a lot of the time. Like I would run to the gym, then run on the treadmill, then run home, and then run to my sister's house, or run here, or run to this place. And it just, man, you would just accumulate. And I tried to see it as like, it's very backyard specific in terms of get up and go again, get up and go again. Yes, it's not every hour, but it's like stop, go again, stop, go again. And your legs get used to having to go even when you don't want to go. Your mind calluses, your body calluses. And like this whole thing was self-coached. And I was just experimenting. And I feel like 48 loops in your first go, I've done a decent job. Because I just see myself as a lab rat, just constantly experimenting, see what works, see what doesn't work. And I feel like that worked because, leading on to the next question, what was the longest run in your training block? My longest run, well, I did a 100K race, so probably that. And I use that as a bit of a training thing. But in terms of actual training, nothing more than 50, not even 50K. I don't think I did more than 45 in any single run. Obviously, like I said, I did the 100K, but I didn't do any more than 45. I told people I did a 10-hour simulation just so people didn't doubt me. But that was a lie. The max simulation I did was 5 hours but what I did was I done a shitload of 3 to 5 hours simulations. So you're never doing more than 35, 40K. But I did a shitload of them, and it's like I saw it as like microdosing, because what people do is, and I'm not saying, again, I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I'm sure a 10-hour, 16-hour, 24-hour simulation does help in some way. But one, I knew I could suffer. Done races where I've suffered. So the ability to suffer was never in question. So it was like, okay, do I do these big simulations and build up fatigue, and potentially there's injury risk with 10-hour plus simulations, there's injury risk. There's big fatigue risk, because then can you then back it up the next day and the day after that and the week after that without carrying the fatigue from the week before or that simulation before? Whereas I just wanted to stack. I just wanted to stack days, stack weeks, get better, adapt, get better, recover. So I would stack these micro simulations, 3 to 5 hours, and one, it's adapting the stomach. It's getting used. The stomach gets used to going again, but it's not in these big loads. It's in these small doses. So your body slowly is able to adapt and recover and get better and recover, and you can overdo that. You can keep doing it, whereas you can't do back-to-back 10-hour simulations or 16-hour simulations. And again, I'm not saying there isn't a time for a 16-hour simulation or 20+ hour simulation. There's definitely a time for that, but I don't think they're as necessary as people make out. The max I did was 5 hours. Yeah, I went 48 hours on my first go. So clearly there's some evidence to what I'm saying. And it's just stacking these small bits like that you can recover from. I think the ability to recover from them is so important for adaptation. Again, there's times where you smash yourself into the wall. Like I said, I did the 100K race. I've done 50K plus runs or whatever in training. Like there are times for that, to build that and build that mental resilience and build that bodily resistance. But I think it is overrated in the sense you can't fucking recover from them. And it's better to stack. Small stacks consistently go a lot further than these big fucking jumps. Trust me. Don't rush the reps. Don't rush the process. Stay true to consistent daily action. Small over a long period of time goes a long fucking way. What's the estimated cost of a backyard ultra? Holy fuck, I need to break down all the costs, but 2K plus. Like, obviously there's ways you can do it on a budget. There's also ways you can do it on a crazy budget, like going really high. Like look at what Kim spent in Texas and stuff. Like there are ways you can really blow it out of the water if you have these camera crews and you're flying out a few people and you're really overdoing it on the food and the Airbnbs and the flights and the shoes and the clothes. Like there's ways it can really get out of hand, but like I would save yourself 2K plus if you have a good crew. You want to feed the crew and you have again, like it changes if it's abroad or not. If you go abroad, you're going to need Airbnb. Luckily, I had people out there. Devin, he had a camper van and a shitload of equipment. That helped. I had people already in Germany, apart from Ben, but we weren't paying for their flights, just paying for their petrol. There's all these little things that that either accumulate in cost or help you cost-wise. So to give an exact figure, I can't do. Do you ever feel envy towards the other competitors? Great question. In all honesty, when I woke up from the hospital the next day, I was like, fuck, I wish I was still out there. But not in the sense like, I wish I was them, just I wish I was competing and still out there. Like I said, I'm not really driven by the social media attention of it all. Yes, I'm aware of it. I'm not retarded. I am aware of it, but I'm not driven by it. Like, I feel like the only way I'd feel envy is if I was driven by it and driven by that need for attention and validation. It was more of a self-exploration thing. Even just seeing them out there, I was like, man, I wish I could see what my body's like at 70, 80 loops. To say I feel envy, I think is inaccurate, because I also don't underestimate the reps it takes to get there. Like Mark Dowdle, he lost his 3 backyards and then went on to win 7 after that. He's had 10 backyards on top of other races, on top of all the other shit he's done, on top of all the training he's done. He has stacked so much in the dark, so fucking much that most people aren't willing to fathom or give. He has stacked days, he has stacked years, he has stacked countless fucking miles. So to even say you feel envy is a disrespect to what he's done, because I haven't put those reps in. Same with any of the top guys. I haven't put those reps in to even deserve to feel envy. You have to at least put those reps in, put that work in, stack those days, stack those races, stack those losses, stack those learnings to even feel a sense of envy for that. And I think that's what you have to realize, is that you can't be jealous, you can't feel envy until you've done what's necessary to even get to that level, to even deserve to compete at that level. And yes, I've stacked a lot of miles, I've stacked experience, I've stacked races, but not to that level in the backyard format, in running in general even, but specifically the backyard format, to even deserve that. And that's where my mind goes whenever I feel like, oh, I wish I was out there. It's like, no, Aaron, you don't deserve that yet. You haven't stacked enough experience, XP in that domain, in that arena, in the dirt to deserve to feel that sense of envy. They deserve everything they fucking got. They've put in countless hours that people just don't see. Dowdle has put in so many fucking hours in the dark for this year, his life to completely change. And I'm so fucking happy for him. I'm so fucking proud of him, because I understand what it takes to work in the dark for years. Nothing happens. Something happens. Same shit of Elo, bro. Like, people see a 70-minute half marathon. People see 93 loops. People see someone who's an absolute insane athlete, but they don't see the reps for years. The shit he's had to go through in his life for years to get to that point where he can perform at that ability. So you can feel envy, you can feel jealousy, but it's a waste of fucking time until you're willing to bite on fucking glass, bite on dirt, bite on concrete for long enough to be able to even perform at that level. That's my opinion on that. How do you become a better version of Aaron from here? Just more volume. Just be more of Aaron. You become a better Aaron by doubling down on your nature, by doubling down on what you're best at, by doubling down on what you're capable of, and just ride it into the fucking sunset. Don't doubt yourself. More Aaron to be a better Aaron. What was the best conversation and with whom did it take place? Probably Dowdle. We shared a few loops. And as I previously mentioned, I was able to pick his brain quite a lot out there. I also think he made a joke like, fuck, I've let a lot go to you. Like, let a lot out. And they were some of the best loops. Like, we both even said, like, one of the loops, I actually felt like I wasn't in a race anymore. I forgot I was in a race. And those are the best conversations you have. There was also a girl, what was her name? Salome, I think. We had a pretty nice conversation about limits, about pushing yourself. And she was a savage. She'd done like 100+ miles. So there was a few conversations out there. But yeah, specific ones were that Salome girl and Dowdle. We had some cool combos about really pushing limits and things outside of running too, like about God, about religion, about values, how we see certain things, and you just make some cool connections out there. And yeah, not to go into too much detail about the conversations, because they were, especially with Dowdle, it was a bit all over the place in terms of like we bounced from this to this to this, but it's pretty fucking cool. If you could change one thing of your backyard, what would that be? Stick to the strategy. Yes, I had the few laps with Dowdle, but I was playing his game, and his game is pretty sporadic, whereas I like systems, I like strategy, and it was only then when I started to really go off my strategy where my body started to fall apart. And I think there was a point where me and Dowda, we sprinted past this guy and we were then hitting like a 5 minute or a sub 5 minute K in the trail, which was super fucking fast considering the trail's super bobbly and we're nearly 200 miles in. And then the next loop after that, I started to feel my hip. That was loop 48 where my hip was like really sore and I had to fight to get back on that loop. And I think like, yeah, I was feeling in my hips anyway, and my hip probably would have come about eventually, but I would have been able to bleed for so much longer. Whereas that fast bit made me bleed a lot faster. So where I only got 1 or 2 loops after that, I could have got 10 loops if I just stuck to my strategy and bled slower. But I don't hold any anger, I don't hold any frustration towards myself and like annoyed with myself, because we have to do to learn, and everything happens for a reason, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. That's the game. Which is more fulfilling, crewing or running? Good question. Crewing emotionally, like having to be so selfless and give yourself up to someone is tough, that not many people can do properly. It takes a real selfless nature to crew properly, because you're giving the spotlight to someone else, you're giving yourself to someone else, and that's tough to do. But then also running, because you're completely in a self-exploration mode. You're completely finding out about yourself. And I would say from a pure fulfillment standpoint, that's more fulfilling, finding out about yourself. But you also find a lot out about yourself crewing someone, you know, and what you're willing to give to allow someone else to be put on the pedestal. I think there's power in that also. What is the best tip you can give me? I'm doing my first backyard ultra in 3 months. Enjoy it, bro. I know that's cliche, but really do enjoy it and have a strong why. Like, if you're doing this backyard for any other validation, for any external validation, it's gonna be a pretty weak foundation. So really question your why, really make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, really make sure that you're going in with a learning mindset and an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset, in the sense that like, oh, I can't lose, oh, I don't wanna lose, like I have all this pressure on myself, like this real fearful mindset. Go in with an abundance, like what can I learn from this? How deep can I go? What can I find out about myself? You know, really going curious, you know, because when it does get tough, you're gonna have to ask yourself, why am I here? And if you're curious, you're gonna willing to go deeper. If you're not so curious, you're gonna tap out. So going curious, I would say. What's your top nutrition snack? Precision gels. Bro, every goddamn loop I had half of a 90-gram precision gel on top of carb mix. I think I missed a few carb mixes on night 1. I was really disliking the taste, but everything apart from that, I had nearly carb mix every round, and I had the gel every round. Easy to get down. Maybe it's not for everyone. No stomach issue. I had no stomach issues the whole fucking time. Bro. The whole time I was good. Few sloppy shits, but that's the game. You're putting shit in your body. But top nutrition snack, precision gels, 90 grams, but have half. If you're having 90 grams, the full thing every hour, and your stomach can handle that, fair play. Next project, as I said, Moab 240, the Utah Desert Mountains. We spoke about that. Yeah. Articulate the line between fitness level and mental grit. I think they both hold as much value as each other, especially in ultras, especially in the backyard. I think for more performance-based things, there's definitely the mental grit becomes more at the elite level. So stuff like a high rock, stuff like a 1500 meter or a half marathon, like you need a certain base level to get to the elites. And then between the elites, there's not much difference. So the mental grit and how hard you're willing to hurt definitely becomes more of a factor. But in a backyard, in an ultra in general, like how hard you're willing to hurt and how much you're willing to grit your teeth will take you a lot further than you think. Especially in the backyard where speed really isn't much of a factor. Like obviously the fitter you are, the easier the paces, the easier the easy paces will feel. So if you're going at a 6 minute K or a 7 minute K or an 8 minute K, the fitter you are, the lower your heart rate and the easier it's going to feel. But ultimately, like if you're a trained runner, those paces are going to feel somewhat easy anyway. So it's less about that, and it's more just how much you're willing to hurt and how much you're willing to bite on that concrete and continue forward. So I think they both definitely hold a place, but it depends on the event. For a backyard, mental grit is needed. Like these Germans are so gritty. Like these guys are taped up to the bone, from spine, from back to legs to hamstring to everything. And yet they're running sideways. They're running fucking sideways, but they find a way to get another loop out. And for that, all I have is admiration and respect, because it's a different level to really send your body into hell and just disregard all consequence. Different level of grit, like that. Just, yeah, I think these backyarders have a different level of grit, and ultra runners in general can just hurt a bit longer because it's a constant battle against yourself. It's one thing having to battle against someone else in a race and have to dig deep because you want to beat someone else, but it's a different thing to have to dig deep to want to beat yourself, because everything in your body is saying stop, and you have to find a way to say no. You can quit at any point. It's not like a fight where someone's beating the shit out of you and you have to physically find something, or in a race where you have to physically find something to get in front of that person. It's a different nature in the sense your mind is trying to beat you up the whole time. It's just fucking you up. Just fists, knees, elbows, everything. It's like ground and pound. Bang, bang, every loop. Bang, 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 bang. You're bleeding, your nose is broke, and guess what? Only you are doing that to yourself, but only you can also go back out for another loop. It's twisted format. And mental grit is something that's needed, probably more than fitness level in this format. But in general, mental grit and fitness level are both things that are needed to exceed at the highest level. Wow, this has been a super long Q&A. I'm gonna have to cut it down, skip some questions. But Godspeed, feeling more human every day as it comes, and get the fuck after it. I hope you guys know that insanity wins, because even though I didn't win, Elo's insane, Mark's insane, everyone who done this fucking event is insane. Because you have to be insane to want to push your limits to the maximum, and for that, insanity.